I'd like to call to order the January 24th public hearing for the City of Tampa's Barrio Latino Commission. Welcome everyone. I'm Rich Simmons, Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you only need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff presents staff report. We will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against the project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by pretty quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed, it will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based upon the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, design review comments, and the testimony given today at the public hearing. The BLC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Our owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. And we'll start with the introduction of my commissioners, other commissioners, starting on my left, please.
Liz Welch.
Good morning, I'm Leaving Wynn.
Good morning, I'm Tom Hamlin.
Good morning, I'm Roberto Torres.
Jose Perez.
Okay. And today from city staff, we have Dennis Fernandez, Ron Vila, Alexis Guzman, and from legal, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel and Dana Crosby Collier. Okay, in our packets, we have the meeting minutes from the November 22nd, 2022 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review, and we can entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Fernandez, any announcements today?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architects Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this morning's public hearing. We were not able to form a quorum in December, so that's why you were approving the November minutes this month. However, we do have the staff approvals for both November and December to enter into the record. I will ask our legal counsel to lead the conflict of interest and ex parte communication disclosure now.
Good morning, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are on the agenda? Additionally, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda? Thank you so much.
Moving on, we do have two continuations this morning. The first, BLC 22-130 for the property located at 913 East 5th Avenue is requesting a continuance to a future public hearing. They will need to renotice when they decide to come back. We'll need one motion for that. And then the second case, BLC 22-185 for the property at 1715 East 4th Avenue is requesting to continue to the next public hearing on February 28th at 9 a.m. And we would need a separate motion for that case.
Motion to move BOC 22-130 to a future public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And motion to move BOC 22-185 to the February 28th, 2023 public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can you just state,
Kid.
and I'm sorry, can you just state on your motion the February 28th at 9 a.m.?
Oh, the February 28th at 9 a.m. 2023.
And Ms. Welch, you second that motion?
Second.
Moving on, Ms. Guzman will now administer the swear-in. Anyone in the audience who's going to be presenting or providing testimony this morning, including staff, please stand and raise your right hand.
You stated the date, just not the time. You stated the date.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving today is the truth, the whole
I do. And with that, we are ready for our first case.
Yeah, cool. Could we just have a motion to accept the staff approvals into the record for November and December? They're in our packet.
I make a motion to accept the staff approvals.
Second.
For November and December into the record.
Oh, second.
Okay, all in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Ron will come up and introduce the first case.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ron Vila. I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Our first case this morning is BLC 23-04 for the address of 1308 East Columbus Drive. It's an empty parcel currently. The underlying zoning is YC2. The use is for commercial. And the request this morning is for a certificate of appropriateness for 4 single-family attached homes with attached garages. Going through a quick photo presentation. This is the Sanborn map from 1929. Area in question is highlighted in the green parcel. In 1929, it faced Michigan, which today is Columbus Drive. To the west, you have 13th Street, and to the fourth, you have 14th Street. To the back of the parcel, in 1929, there was an alley. Going to a more current overhead, you see the large parcel in question. It's a little larger than what we're normally looking at. We have Columbus Drive in the foreground. The alley has been vacated, so there is no alley, so all of the vehicular access has to come off the primary street. This is looking from Columbus Drive back into the subject site. There are some trees in question. Natural Resources have looked at the site plan that you're going to review this morning, and it is suitable for an approval. To the east, you have a convenience store. To the west, you have a duplex that this board reviewed and approved. Directly across the street, you have some fabric that's indicated on this photo. And to conclude, a couple of street shots. This is looking down Columbus Drive towards the east, and in the other direction, Columbus Drive to the west. That concludes the photo presentation. At this time, I'll have the agent and the owner address the board. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joe Gibbons. I'm the applicant and the builder of the project. This is my first time doing it digitally, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, the lot size is 101 by 115. The current zoning is YC2 with a future land use of CMU 35. I'm requesting a certificate of appropriateness for a new single-family attached structure with attached garages. This is the view looking from Columbus Drive, looking north to the site. There are quite a few trees on the property. I've had an arborist report which I submitted to staff for the HDC meeting, and there's quite a few of the trees that will be removed just because of their conditions. This is the aerial, Columbus Drive. To the east is a convenience store, and directly to the west is another project that we did a couple of years ago. This is a drone shot looking down, looking from the south-north to the parcel. Another drone shot. This is from a drone looking south. You can see the convenience store to the east. The site, if I may, I also have some larger boards I'd like to put up. The front setback is aligned with 1306 Columbus, which was a project we did a couple of years ago. As Ron mentioned, the alley's been vacated, so our access is through a ribbon drive on the east side of the property. Parking in the garage access is in the rear. And then, because of the size of the property, we do have a large green area in the back. The AC equipment will be also contained in the back of the property. Does note, it's kind of hard to tell, but a lot of these trees that you saw on a previous slide will be removed just because of their conditions. There's a large tree that's on the property line that has a severe lean to the west going towards the 1306 Columbus. Staff had recommended the removal of that tree, and I've also spoken to the owner of the 1306 Columbus, and he was overly joyed, especially after the last storm that went through. He thought it was coming down at that time. This just kind of gives a perspective of, fortunately, the size of the property allows a lot of green space. I've come before the board several times before where I didn't have the luxury of this type of green space. The finished floor elevation will be at 24 inches, which is exactly what the 1306 East Columbus Drive structure is. The ribbon drive will have historic scoring of 3 foot. The parking area and drive access in the back will be scored with 5x5 scoring pattern. On this slide, you can see some pervious concrete. There is one tree back here that we are proposing to save, and staff recommended the use of pervious concrete on the west end of the parking area. We are proposing a fence, however, at this time, and then previous applications, typically we wait until we're a little further along in the project and we get with Ron and staff to present what we'd like to do for fencing. There also is a retaining wall. I'd like to move on to the next slide. This is the front elevation. You can see we have some retaining walls that will be in front of each structure. These we still are finalizing the design, but they will be either concrete or some sort of a metal fencing. Moving on to the building plan. This is looking kind of southwest. You can see the ribbon drive on the east side of the building. Again, this is kind of what we're thinking of for a fence, but that would be finalized a little bit later. One more slide here. Go back. So moving on to the building, it is proposed that it's a 3-story fee simple, single-family attached units. Garages are in the rear of the property, in the rear of the structure. They've kind of been, plans have been developed. These could also be live work because there is a kind of an office in the front of the structure that could accommodate a home office if so desired. The elevation we're proposing is a smooth sand finish stucco finish with metal balconies and a kind of an appropriate railing system. We've added some brick to kind of differentiate between the units. And this is the view looking from the south, looking north west. We have added quite a few windows on each side. This is looking north and east. This is the rear. You can see the ribbon drive again coming up on the east side. Garages, mechanical equipment is in the rear. The garages are actually oversized 1-car, so the receptacle cans can be kept indoors. Another view of the rear of the property showing the mechanical equipment. So moving on, each floor is 9 foot with a 24-inch floor joist system. So the overall height of the building leading up to our parapet wall, we're still below the allowable maximum height. Just more architectural details of the back of the building. This slide shows that we're proposing to bring the brick around on the stem wall around each side. Back you can see how it wraps around the east side as well as the west side. Moving on, I don't know why that's upside down, but building wall section shows the stem wall, our railing and balcony system. During some previous meetings with staff, it was mentioned that typically there was each building kind of had its own identity. So we've developed kind of a logo that we would like to have on the front of the building, and tying in with the fabric of the neighborhood. This is just the floor plans. Proposed building materials. We've used the Jeld-Wen windows on all of our previous projects. This, we're proposing to do a casement window, which would be a wood-clad window, and we've had very good luck with this. It's a customized window that we use for the Ybor district. This is some of the materials we've used on previous projects. It's a Therma-Tru full light glass door, which would be 8 foot, and then we use the Schlage Century hardware. This kind of shows the slide on the right is kind of the inspiration of the railing system that we would propose to use. The slide on the left is what we would be proposing for our balcony system. The brick that we're proposing is a smokehouse. It's Hebron brick, and I have the sample with me. It's called Smokehouse. Sand finish stucco. And then the roof system, it looks flat from the front, but with the parapet wall, it does have a slope, and we've used this VFI silicone system on our previous structures that are constructed this way. We've selected the exterior color palette. The roof, of course, would be white. You can't see that from the road. The brick is smokehouse, kind of a gray. The exterior paint, the walls would be white snow, and we've used the exterior trim color, which is called tricorn. We've used that on some previous projects in the district. So some of the immediate structures along Columbus Drive. This is at 1023 East Columbus Drive. This would be just to the west of the subject parcel. This is the old fire station at Columbus, and I believe that's at 13th or 12th. This is actually diagonally right across the property. I believe the structure was moved here with the city and DOT at 1301 East Columbus. It's kind of got the parapet wall in the front, which we kind of drew some of our inspiration from. This is the school now going east of the property. This is just east of 14th. This is across from the J.C. Newman factory. There again, we've kind of taken our parapet wall design with the inspiration from this building. J.C. Newman, which is directly just to the east of the subject property. This is at 1708 East Columbus Drive. It's got some brick and stuff on the front. It's got a balcony system. This is directly across from that project, or that building at 1717 East Columbus. These are some duplexes a little further east at 1808 East Columbus. So as we go through, it's kind of a broad mixture of architectural styles along Columbus Drive that we've kind of drawn a little bit of some inspirations from these projects. Some of the inspiration photos when we decided to come forward with this project, it's something new for us, something totally different than I've presented to the BLC before. This is the hotel on 7th Avenue that really kind of gave us the inspiration to start with for this proposed project. Some other photos, it's got the balcony system, which we kind of liked. This is the back of the hotel. Kind of drew on some of the color schemes from this for our project. This is a little further south of, I think this is on Fifth Avenue, Fourth Avenue. It's a 4-story structure. There again, it's kind of got the same vernacular of what we've inspired our project to be. It's another one in Ybor. It's not really too much of an inspiration for us, but there again, it's kind of gave us a few ideas to draw from. Some additional structures in the district. Speaking of Ron, I realize this is the 18th time I've come before you, so kind of a proud moment for that. I could just kind of go through what we've done previously. This is on 14th Avenue, 12th Street. This was probably back in 2019, I think. 922 Columbus Drive. 1306 East Columbus is directly west of our proposed project. This is a good sample to show what our proposed finish elevation would be and the massing of that building. This site being directly next to a gas station convenience store, we kind of wanted to tie it in with this proposed use of the 4 units as it kind of leads down going west on Columbus. This is a single family home that we did in the district on 10th Street. This is on East 15th Avenue, which is 1 block south of the proposed development. This is at the corner of Avenue Republica de Cuba and 15th. These are at 1707, 1709 East Columbus, just east of our proposed project that we're bringing forward today. Another single family home that was on 10th Street. This is a home that we did last year at 1718 East Columbus. This is at 1216 East 15th Avenue, which we did last year. It's a stacked duplex. This is a 3-unit townhome that was finished in April of last year at North 18th Street. This one is at 1313 East 15th Avenue, almost directly south. If Tom Brady was still throwing footballs, you could throw a football from our proposed project and hit this one. This is currently in progress at 915 East 15th Avenue. It came before the commission last year, presented. This kind of shows Ribbon Drive that would be used on this project. Shows the parking in the back. This is currently under construction at 2601 East 11th Avenue, the corner of 26th Street. And this is another one at 2603 East 11th Avenue. This is the number 17th project that I brought before, which leads me into this 18th project I've brought to you today, and that concludes my presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservations. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines. We reviewed these plans on November 23rd, 2022. On page 3 of your staff report, there's some conditions associated with this request. The applicant went through a thorough presentation and addressed most of them. Just to touch upon some of them, in looking at Columbus Drive, it's a unique corridor. We're looking for this structure to fit in with the vocabulary along Columbus Drive. We look at setbacks and elevation from grade that he stated into the record. We also look at the massing, and through his request this morning, he showed some other structures along Columbus Drive and within the immediate vicinity and the different massing. It is just not all single-family residential along Columbus Drive, so through his photo essay, I think it illustrated that. There were some questions about additional materials. It's called out on the staff report with the brick selection, and I know he has other staff members with him too that have the materials that they could provide you, and through the question and answer, maybe it'll come up at that time. There were some modifications made to the structure to get to this point, and lowering the porch railing to have the belt course in line with some of the architectural elements that are incorporated into the design. And one comment that we had was the operation of the windows. There were casement windows, and on the first level, when you have a porch, that casement window, as it opens out, it might interfere with, you know, the operation of how you use the porch. So that's maybe something to question as well. Other than that, the section he provided, maybe he could go through that one more time. It was kind of sideways laying down, and if he could call out all the exterior materials. There were two questions that I still had that I think he was gonna delegate to staff if this was to move forward, was the fence design and materials, and then the retaining wall. So if this is to move towards a final, that would be a condition that would be associated with a final approval. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vila. Anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this case? Please identify yourself. Seeing none, we'll start with some questions of the applicant with the commissioner, starting on my right. Joe, do you have a board, like an elevation board that you can put up?
Yes.
That's helpful. Thank you.
So I've got boards for all the elevations.
All right, so the only, good presentation, first of all. One quick question, the remainder of the site, which I see it's all green, right? There's no, are those gonna be fenced out for each townhouse, or? just one
In
big
the
patio?
front, we would have these kind of private little courtyards, but in the back, everything would
It's
be
all open?
open, which is kind of displayed here on this colored photo. All of this would be open. We'll have to do some tree replacement, so, and possibly some on-site retention, which would be in this
That was my
green area.
question, it's not gonna be bare, there'll be trees, landscaping, and.
Correct, correct.
You also said the trash cans are inside the garage?
Yes,
So you
yes.
wanna- okay. Those are all my questions now.
Mr. Torres.
No questions.
The drawing you're showing there, those are the existing trees that are coming down? They're,
No, those are just some that everything in the front obviously would be
But-
planted, but
the trees on the side and the ones coming up over the back are,
there is one in the back that, in the reason that we're gonna use the pervious concrete. Yeah, there's one, I believe it would be this one right in here, that's a large oak that we're gonna preserve. It's on the property boundary. And then a few along the east side will be preserved as well.
and the other questions I have, the retaining walls, which you're gonna bring back, for staff to review. I wanted to know more about what they were. You showed some other slides that had retaining walls that were more common to Ybor City than black ones.
Yeah,
And that's what,
the artist that presented this, but the retaining walls in the front to create the courtyards would be concrete. And then along the property lines would be more of a fence, either a metal or a wood fence. But the front would be concrete retaining walls to create the courtyards.
that's all I had.
And so with the retaining walls, you had said that it was still partially being designed, so with the concrete, but is it having I'm assuming it has the metal black fence above it, at the top?
For the railing just on
Yeah,
the
for railings,
porches.
Yep. And then, with the brick at the front facade, how is that gonna be proud of the stucco, or how does the stucco
Yes,
meet the brick?
it would be, I believe it's 2.5 inches thick.
2.5 inches thick, and so then you're gonna terminate it at the top, at that stucco reveal
Correct, this would
out?
be a thicker stucco band that would come over the
Thicker
brick.
stucco band, okay, fantastic. And then, and so at the base, you were talking about sort of a brick base that wraps both the south facade, the east and west.
Correct.
But it doesn't return on the north facade in the back.
No, because because of the configuration of the garage doors, and there's just not enough room. So it would terminate here in the corners. Actually, we could probably wrap it around each corner in the back and terminate at the garage. But between the garages, we really don't have enough.
And then with this facade here, and the east and west as well, are you gonna have any sort of like vertical reveals or control joints? That's a lot of stucco to be just kind of
Yes, yeah.
massive.
There would be actually additional reveals along the east and west sides, stucco reveals, expansion joints.
And so those just don't show up in the rendering?
Yeah, yeah. So we would have expansion joints. Typically, they're every 8 feet.
And then, do you have a section that we can go and blow up and just kind of walk through, as Ron kind of mentioned, of like a typical wall section of everything? And go through all the materials, the windows, that kind of thing.
Yes, so we'd have the 24-inch stem wall, and then these are wood frame construction. We build to the National Green Building Standards. We try to reach as close to net zero as possible with our construction type. But we have 2x6 framed walls, and because of in the windows that we're proposing to use, the customized Geldon windows that we have fabricated have a really thick sash that would be pronounced out. And then we've got the brick that's going to be going up. The balcony system, again, is a metal. We'll have some light gauge I-beams here. The railing system we've already decided on is something that we've drawn on from some other projects in the district. And then continuing up to the third floor, there again, the windows and the exposed banding around the windows is quite pronounced. And then coming up to the parapet wall, which is where we'll have this proposed detailing, kind of announcing the building and something to kind of give it some historic texture. But it's kind of hard to tell from the renderings, but the stucco banding is quite pronounced. And there would be additional control joints in the front as well, besides just the brick.
Great, thank you. No further questions for me.
The only question that I have, and you may have discussed this and I missed it, was there's a notation here under the conditions to revisit operation of the window not to impede the porch use on the first floor. Can you talk a minute about what that issue was and then how you addressed it?
So on the first floor here, there's 2 windows. So we were going to make one of them a fixed glass window, and the other one would still be a casement window to meet the egress.
Okay.
On the previously proposed plans, both windows were operational, so we
Got it.
took one
Okay.
into fixed glass.
And that will be on all 4 units?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
And then what we did on the second floor is because we have the door, these 2 windows would now become fixed glass as well, since we don't need those to be operational since there's a door for egress.
Thank you. So on the roof, let's start on the up top. So you have a large parapet wall up front and then on two sides?
Correct.
Or is there a parapet wall on all four sides?
3 sides, the
Three
front and 2
And
sides.
what happens to the drainage on the back? Is there a gutter back there?
Correct. There'd be a gutter system along here. We use a 6-inch commercial gutter system. The downspouts would come down between,
Between the units.
like right here between these windows. I think I've got it on the,
But there's no parapet wall on the back side?
no.
Okay, so you basically return the stucco and,
Correct.
yeah, I guess like on this elevation, the front, on the bottom elevation, it looks like the parapet wall is much pronounced and it looks like it's just continuous on all four sides, so that, obviously that condition would be a little bit different.
Right. So we'd have
Exposed roof on the-
a 6-inch gutter, and then where these sash lines are between the units would be the downspouts. And those tie into a drainage system that would go into our on-site retention.
Okay, so the belt coursing, you said that that's gonna be on 3 sides and you can wrap around the ends on the garage on the back side. You said it's gonna be proud of the stucco? It's gonna stick out more?
Yes.
Okay. You're not gonna do like columns, it's gonna be continuous?
Correct.
Okay. And that will continue up with the brick up the front. When I look at the front elevation, like the rendering looks, looks good. I like the project. I'm just wondering why the brick. I don't know if there needs to be brick on the 2 exterior sides to kind of frame that up a little bit more going to the pediment. It's just kind of, it seems like it's an afterthought to add those 3 brick columns there. I know what you're trying to do. It just seems like it's going nowhere. Have you looked at different options to kind of tie that back in a little bit more?
One thing we could, just looking at this elevation, is probably wrap the corners with the brick along the front and then return it back in on this, on each side here. So bring it down, basically just wrap the whole corner with the brick. In fact, I think Ron had mentioned that to me. We just have to be careful with this,
Yeah,
the
I think that might
tieback
help
for the.
frame the front elevation a little bit more if that's not. It's either you have the pediment, and I know, I've seen your historic example, your references throughout the district, and, brick is kind of not really in there, but it's alluded to. I think that would be a good move to kind of maybe tie it in and grab those corners. So I see eyebrows, they're everywhere, right? You have the sills and eyebrows pronounced everywhere?
Correct.
I think, talk me through the process of wanting to do casement windows on this project.
Just for the light, and looking at some of the inspiration photos that we drew on. And as I mentioned, these are custom built for us up in Pennsylvania that we've used extensively throughout the district. Just wanted to use, casements. I haven't used them, and since a lot of these will be fixed glass, that's why I would like to use the casement just to get more light, especially like on these end units.
Okay.
Wanted
Yeah,
to try to get as much glass.
Yeah, I think in general in the district, we typically see them more like 1/1s, like on that 3rd floor level, it just seems like it's a broad expanse of glass with no definition of, if there's a top and bottom. Is that something that they could do like applied muntins or something like that to?
Yeah,
And I think
because
when
they
you
are.
look at your other projects, a lot of them are all 1/1s. You have some larger windows, and it just seems like it's and I could see your reference in the Hotel Haya where they had that, but that's kind of a different, that's on 7th Avenue. That's a main commercial hotel. This is more residential set off in the, not the main historic district, but
Right.
a tertiary area. So I guess it seems to me like it should speak a more residential language when it comes to the windows.
Well, the fortunate thing is because they are custom, but I'm sure I can get with the manufacturer and maybe come up with some sort of a custom,
Because those are casements
grill.
up on the 3rd floor, right?
Yes, these are casements, yeah. But I know with Gelman, they would be able to fabricate some sort of button system to give it that definition I think you might be looking for.
Okay. And it seems like there's on the side elevations and the rear, like when you look at that rear corner from the side to the rear, you have those two windows up on the third floor, but they don't appear to be the same size. You know, one's a little bit more horizontal, the other one.
Yeah, this would be over the master shower.
Right.
So we still want to get light into the bathroom, so that is over the master shower.
What's the one right next to it? On the side right there. So it looks like that's a little bit more vertical than horizontal. It'd be nice to maybe, you know, kind of too many window sizes, types, and it might be nice to simplify that a little bit. And then I think the other thing is some of the windows don't necessarily align where they are in plane. Like I think one of the elevations, it looked like it was maybe 2-3 inches off, and that you know, framing gives you that flexibility to move it, but
Right.
you may want to just kind of get that in a little bit more alignment.
I believe this is going to be, that would be over the commode of the just there again, trying to get as much light into the master bathroom.
Okay, do you have a side elevation? Take a look at that real quick. Yeah, it's like starting from the left, you know, the left, you have twos on the bottom and then one going up top, and then when you get to the third series of windows, they're not aligned. It'd be nice to kind of shift that over and work on.
Right. This window is in the third floor. There's 2 master suites on the third floor, so that would be over the commode area, just like this one is over here in this other suite. And then these are actually on the second floor. This is part of the dining area here.
Yeah, just like on the first floor, that small window, the third one doesn't align.
This one here?
Yeah, doesn't align with the two above, and it might be a simple shift over, and then
Sure.
you know, maybe that top right.
Okay, I
window.
see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's something that you can, you know, work with staff. You guys can take care of it, but I just think you might want to simplify that. Maybe work on getting things in alignment a
Sure.
little bit more. Now on your wall section, the casement windows, they look like they are front glazed and pretty close to the finished stucco. Is that accurate? Is that driven? Because
No,
are-
they're a thicker. There's a thicker sash.
Right, but the glazing here, like if you look at the middle one, the glass is all the way to the outside instead of being centered within the wall. And I'm wondering if that's a function.
No, the actual sash is going to be thicker than what it's going to protrude
Right, I'm
out
talking
past the
about
wall.
The glass, though. The glass looks like it's all the way out on the sash.
Yes. Yeah. So this.
Okay. So you have a couple things working, you know, you have a broad expanse of glass there, like using the casement windows with no, you know, definition of, you know, breaking it down to smaller units, 1 over 1 or whatever it may be. Plus you're pushing glass all the way up to the exterior, so that's gonna be kind of a little bit too much, in my opinion. So I think typically in frame construction, you'd like to see that glass more towards, in the center of that wall. And that'll help not make the glass as a prominent element.
Okay.
Because you have two things, that broad expanse on the casement windows, and then you're pushing that glass all the way. So I think a couple things could be done there to pull that back into the building a little bit more,
Okay.
make it more recessed, give more definition, depth to the windows, and then maybe try to break that up into
Sure.
smaller units. And all the windows are gonna be dark bronze, like the railings and everything else?
There again, because of they're customized, they can make them. Let me grab the. A little handy dandy custom Geldwin color. We were thinking either they have just a black, and there's also
You kinda want it to match the railings and the
correct.
balcony.
The ones at you know, kind of you see typically they call luxury bronze, but they also have something called a chestnut bronze. But we'd want to get, you know, something a little bit darker than what just the bronze.
Okay.
Initially, we're thinking, you know, since they are custom built for us, that we do black.
Which I think is appropriate if you tie everything in with the
Mm-hmm.
guardrails and the balcony and the awning, and that's fine. I think that works. And I think the garage door panel, that's just a flat flush panel.
Correct.
No detailing or ornament or inset. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Can you talk about the exterior lighting at the porches or at the back of the driveway, that kind of thing?
So typically what we do in this situation is we would have recessed lights up in the balconies, and then we would do them with a black trim, and we use LED lights. So for the front, you know, everything is kind of concealed with recessed lights. And then in the rear, we haven't decided yet, but we would have some sort of a light over each garage door that would be presented to Ron before. That's what we've done in the past is there's so many selections nowadays. Once we kind of start getting towards that, Jessica and Julie will present to Ron kind of what we'd like to use and get his approval before. But there would be some sort of a large kind of a coach light over each garage door.
Great, thank you.
Okay, having no more questions, you have a few minutes to rebut anything or summarize your comments.
No, like I said, this is my 18th time coming before you, so it never gets easier, I can tell you that. But we've had a good relationship with Ron and staff, and you know, a lot of times, you know, working through, you know, get an approval that, you know, subject to certain things like lighting design and stuff like that. We've got a pretty good track record working with staff on presenting what we'd like to use, especially when it comes to fencing. You know, with this convenience store next door, we want to do something that's going to really kind of separate our development from that. You know, hopefully eventually that would be redeveloped at some point, but until then. And then, as I stated earlier, because this is one of the larger sites I've presented, I have the large green area that will do some extensive landscaping, and, you know, makes a nice area for the owners, you know, dog run or just, you know, quiet living in the city, I guess.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. We can have discussion of the case amongst ourselves. Ms. Welch?
No, I think he could work with some staff, so some of the comments we had, like, I do like the windows, putting in some mullions. I think you might want to think about maybe changing it to some double hung, because it does look more like a commercial structure at the time. It could be some offices or that kind of thing, just kind of bring a little more of that residential language into it. Something like the expanding the brick on the edges, maybe even putting it at the retaining walls, and then as well as the belt course. I would like to see it, you know, go wrap around the entire structure as well.
I think Rich's comments were really good on the elevation. Adding the brick detail to the corners would really set that off a lot. And I think the cornice lines that need to extend all the way around the building, I don't see why they can't be on that back elevation. That would help tie it together. And I would echo the comments on the windows. It looks like a commercial building. The renderings look like it's all fixed glass, and getting that broken down to a smaller scale and getting it to, would make it help an awful lot to get it look like a residential building.
Yeah, same thing on the windows. The one with the brick was really good. I was thinking, you know, is it an accent or is it a feature? And, you know, bringing it to the sides, I think is going to make it more of a feature than an accent.
So a couple things. One is I think you need to, if you look at La Jolla, the hotel, They have a horizontal modding on the third portion of the window on the top, which I think would work really well here with those big casement windows. Definitely the banding, wrap it around. I would do something with the top of the garage door, something, I mean, it doesn't align with the windows, but I would do something there. And can you go to the front elevation? All right, that's fine. I personally, and I disagree, I don't think we need the brick in this building. I think you could do something with vertical scoring or something. I think the brick just feels slapped on there, you know, for, I'm not sure why. I personally, I don't think you need it for the building. Once you start doing the banding and all that, I think it's gonna work really well, so that's all.
Yeah, I would echo the commissioner's comments. With the brick, I think it's kind of, there's no natural termination point, so, I mean, if you want to do a full brick cornice across the top, then you can bring those up. I think it's acceptable to go stucco. It just kind of details. I would keep the brick banding around the base, the pediment. I think that's a nice, nice touch to level around that building.
I think if we do it on the corners, then we wanna do it on the other corners, and then we're just gonna keep rubbing it around the brick, and I don't think you need that for this building. I think it looks really good without it, so.
Yeah, I like the project. I think it's, a nice addition. The things that kind of bother me are those 3 brick columns. I'm okay with that. You could do that with control joints with stucco and just band that out or build that up a little bit like your cornice, and I think that achieves the same thing that you want to do. And maybe you do that on the edges over here just to kind of define that front corner. The biggest thing that I have heartburn over is the windows and not being able to break that down into smaller things and making sure that they're inset more within the wall. I think that's gonna take a little bit more research on the applicant's part to see if Jeld-Wen can if you wanna stay with the casement, see if they can center glaze that so it's centered within the wall and still open, and maybe to have some applied muttons or something to kind of at least break that down into a 1/1. But by insetting that glass in the wall, I think that's gonna help a lot too, and then break those down into smaller units. So I think we're generally in agreement on that, everyone.
Yeah, and I would agree with taking the brick off and doing that out of stucco. And one of the things you can do that kind of makes that stand out a little different is do the banding in a slightly different color, very subtle color change will make it pop out and make it stand out.
But still leave the brick on the stem wall along the,
I mean, along the street?
On the-
The public hearing is closed, so we're just having our
Yeah.
discussion right now. We can't really ask, and then we're gonna summarize and come back to you.
Well, the brick on the stem wall, in your rendering, you show it all covered up with plant material, so why bother?
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. I mean, and I think one thing that I had kind of heartburn a little bit was that the brick was proud there, where typically that would come down and the siding is protruded more and then it steps back into it. Like you have siding that's overlapping the structure, and then you don't have that, so having brick at the bottom. Yeah, I don't have any issues with getting rid of that, and I think, there's enough stucco detailing that you could do here. I mean, you're already doing that with the eyebrows on the sills and the head, so I mean, continue that throughout. I think it just brings it together as a better gestalt.
Yeah.
So, in general, I think we're generally in agreement on the windows, trying to break those up into smaller units, get those set back into the windows. The applicant could substitute stucco banding for all of the brick, and then add some corner elements there. And I think one condition too is that the applicant needs to work with staff on the future fence. It should be a condition.
And that retaining wall along the street, I guess it's part of the fence.
Okay. so I think we can, if we get a motion here, then we'll.
So for certificate of appropriateness, final approval with conditions, let's see, move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in BLC 23-04 for the property located at 1308 East Columbus Drive with the following conditions. That the applicant work with staff to redesign the windows, to break down the detailing, to either add mullions and get the glass centered into the wall. The applicant work with staff for the final lighting on the project. The applicant work with staff for the final fencing and the ground porch condition, to finish detailing that, and that the applicant work with the staff to finalize either the brick detailing or change it to some sort of inset, some stucco plaster of some sort for the front facade, and how the banding to wrap around the entire building, both at the base of the second and third floors, but also at the base of the building as well. And let's see, was there anything else that I'm
Lighting.
missing?
Did you say lighting?
Lighting. Is that everything? Okay. Oh, and then what? The garage door, for like an eyebrow for the garage door type of thing. And then, because based on the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa, based for the following reason: that it matches the height and width, setback, spacing, and similar details and forms of the neighborhood conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor with a second. There's a few conditions placed on this application by the board. Is the applicant okay with those proposed changes?
Yes.
Yes, he acknowledges yes. We have a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Moving to our next agenda item, which is BLC 22-153. This is for the address of 1914 East Fifth Avenue. Currently, it's a vacant parcel. It does have the YC7 zoning attached to this parcel. The request in front of you this morning is for new construction for a duplex with site improvements. Moving to the photo presentation and starting with the 1929 Sanborn map. Property in question is highlighted in green. Showing the fabric along 7th Avenue in 1929, you see the proximity to the structures to each other, the closeness and the urban environment. Property does face 5th Avenue. It's in between 19th and 20th Street that run north and south, and there is a functional alley. In 1929 there was an alley, and currently there is an alley today. The access will be coming off the alley. The grid is very important, once again, as fulfilling the travels of the vehicle. This parcel is only 25 by 95 in dimension, so to get access from the primary street would be very difficult. This is showing the property in question. It is from here to here. There are some building separation issues that have to be met as it goes through the plans review. That early on, the site plan that was presented meets the preliminary separations. So that's looking from 5th Avenue, looking at the abutting structures. And you'll see the setback. This is the abutting to the west. This was an open porch back in the day. You see the proximity to the sidewalk and the elevation from grade. The access is not from the sidewalk into the porch symmetry. It comes off the side, and then it has a side entrance. This is the empty parcel to the east. Just a couple of street shots. You see the urban environment here and the parallel parking that's along 5th Avenue. This is looking to the west. This is turning around looking to the east. Looking directly across the street, you have some residential massing. Next to that, you have an open land now. And just to conclude with the alley, The way transportation reviews the alleys, that if the alleys are navigable and the request is either single family or two family, the requester that comes forward does not have to improve the alley. So the alley can remain the same. It's on the owner and the developer if they wish to improve the alley. If they do wish to improve the alley, then the surface materials are either asphalt or concrete. And that will be taken up with transportation as well at that time. That concludes the photo presentation, and the agent will address the board.
Good morning. My name is Salvador Rodriguez. I am the architect of the project. Okay, this is the general location of the property. This is 5th Avenue, this is 19th Avenue, and this is 20th Avenue. The idea is to have the access to 2 cars from the alley to go back to the property, and the access to the property will be from existing sidewalk that is in front of the property. This is the site plan. This left side is 5th Avenue. This right side is the alley. The lot dimension are, the dimension are 96 feet length by 25 feet width. This is a narrow lot. All the lots on the same block facing East Avenue have exactly the same lot dimension. In consequence, the houses have a small front elevation with a maximum width of 22 feet. I propose a residential duplex vernacular style according to this area. The first floor will be 1 unit, and the second floor will be the other unit. Both units will have access from the front porch that basically will be from this side to go into the front porch. The front porch is 8 foot deep. The front setback is, I took as an average setback. The property on the 2 properties on the west side, one is one has a setback of 0 lot line, and the other one has 2 feet 2 inches. I get a result of 1 foot 1 inch of average setback for my property. The side setback of the property is by code is 3 feet. I propose a side setback of 3 feet 7 inches in order to keep the overhang of the roof 2 feet 1 inch from the property line. The roof overhang is 1 foot 6 inches. The back setback will be 32 feet. The 32 feet that I took for the back setback was in order to have the 24 feet from the complete alley and the 18 feet for the car, in order that a car can have the backup on that area. AC pads for 2 units also will be proposed on the back of the unit. And there is an existing sidewalk in front of the property. The new sidewalk will be basically this connection that you have here, because this is existing. The sidewalk will be just this connection to get access through the side to the front porch. The stair for that front porch will be 24 inches high with 4 risers and 3 treads. The front porch finished floor elevation will be 24 inches high. That is according with the average setback of the 2 houses located at the west side, that is 1912 and 1908. This is the front elevation of the project and the east elevation of the project. As you can see, we have the side sidewalk, the entry on the side, and the porch on this area. This door will be for for the unit on the first floor, and this entry door will be for the unit on the second floor. This is the back elevation facing from the alley and the west elevation. I will go from the bottom to the top. Let me zoom this a little bit. Okay, we have 3 columns. 2 columns will go straight to the second floor, and the other column will be half column. The columns will be brick veneer with a concrete cap 4 inches. The bottom on the porch will be a stucco sand finish with a concrete brush 4 inches above it. We will have a PT wood railing, and we will have on the column in the middle, we will have another concrete cap. The column on the 2 ends will be 12 by 12 columns with a 4 inches string around the whole column on the bottom, on the top, and on the sides. The trims will be hardy board. We will use 6-inch hardy board trim for all the doors and all the windows. And we will use 6 inches green hardy board for siding. Going up, we will have the 6 inches horizontal cement board that will be the trim that we will use for the second floor, and the 6 inches wide hardy board siding. The color of the hardy board will be green, according with the pallets that we received from the Ybor historic review. This is the trim for the windows, 6 inches trim. We will have a historic seal. We will have a PT column, but the PT column will be wrapped with cement board. And we will have the 4 inches hardy board doing all the trims around the column. We will have a 6 inches horizontal cement board on the gable, and we will have a stagger edge hardy on this area. We will have the rafter here. We will have a exposed rafter with 2x6 PT. The roof will be shingle. This is the east elevation. This is the stair that you can see on the side with the same columns. We will have fake columns that basically we try to emulate the columns for that type with the brick veneers. And between the columns, we will have a stucco sand finish. We will have the bottom skirt board, 6 inches. Then we have the siding. We have another 6 inches horizontal cement board for trim here. We will have the siding, the trims, exposed rafter, shingles. This double window that we have on this side will have the historic seal on the bottom. We'll have 6 inches trim on the edges, and we have 8 inches trim on the middle with a 6 inches hardy trim on the top. This is the side stair with the stair to go to the back for the lanai to go to the car garage, to the car pod, excuse me. North elevation. The same columns, stucco, skirtboard, trim on the sides, siding, skirtboard, siding, stagger edge on the gable end, cement board, and the spot rafters. West elevation, double window, single window, single window, and will be exactly the same kind of material and the same trims. This is basically the floor plan of the unit. We have a 8-foot porch, the stair on the side, the 3 columns, the access to the unit on the first floor, the access to the unit on the second floor, a great room. We have 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Will be exactly almost the same on the second floor. That will be this unit. The stair come here, got the great room, the kitchen, couple of bedrooms, couple of bathrooms. These are the construction section of the project. The house will be concrete block wall, the first floor. The second floor will be wood frame, 2x6. On the first floor, you have the stain wall that is 24 inches high, with the stock on the bottom, with the hardy skirtboard on the top. Then you go to siding, the skirtboard on the top, and then siding again to the top with the trim, a stagger edge on this area, and exposed rafters. This is another section. Will be exactly the same. Historic seal, the trim, siding, skirtboard, siding, historic seal, siding, exposed rafters. This is a section of with the door, with the stairs, with the PT wood railing, and will be exactly the same thing. Skirtboard, siding, exposed rafters. This would be the construction of the columns. Basically, will be a 12 by 12 columns with brick veneer, a concrete cap, a cement board finish of the column, and the trims around the column. On the second floor, we have a 6 by 6 wood post. We will have a 2 by 4 attached to the wood post to give the width that we need for the column. And then we have the hardy board and the 4-inch string on the edges of the column. On the top, we have the staggered hardy, and we have the exposed rafters. This is the section on the front porch. Concrete beam, concrete lintel, railing, PT wood railing, stagger edge, hardy trim, shingle roof, and exposed rafters. This is the section of the half column that we have on the second floor and on the first floor. The column will be lower on the first floor to have the style, and on the second floor we have to do the column with the height by code. That will be basically 3 feet high. This is a section on the porch. I just try to show that the trim around the doors and the trim on the corners of the building are not merged together, because I think that is the way that it's supposed to be. I moved the door a little bit out of the corners to have this kind of finish. That basically the trim of the doors on the top, on the bottom, on the side, and the trim of the wall is completely free. These are the details of the windows. That will be the 6 inches the 6 inches trim on the sides, 8 inches trims on the middle. I am talking about the double window, and the 6 inches on the top, with the historic seal on the bottom. And the single window, that will be basically 6 inches on the sides, historic seal, and 6 inches hardy trim on the top. These are the details of the railing on the lanai, on the first floor and on the second floor. Everything will be PT 2x6 and 2x4. And basically we have the block on the bottom, and then you have the horizontal 2x4, the vertical 2x2, horizontal 2x4, and the 2x6 on the top. This railing will be for the lower part of the house, that will be 2-4. And this railing will be 3 feet by code on the second floor. These are some examples of the lights that we want to use on the porch. The lighting for the porch will be recessed, but we want to put a couple of lamps on that area also. These are the colors that we're gonna use. We took that color from the Ron office. That is the green, the house will be green and the trims will be white. The stagger edge for the gable ends and the siding for the house. We have examples here of the construction material I will show you later. These are some of the reference that I use for this project. That is about columns and it's about the finish on this area. These are some elements that we have on that area with the same height that we have. Railing, I don't like this railing, but they have it there. I prefer this one. And the columns. The windows, the seals, the trim that they have here, the siding, exposed rafters, and gable end. This is the property on the west side that basically have the stair that I try to propose, that the stair will be on the side. And this is our property. This is the other property. On the next property on west, this was the closest one, and this is the other one. Also has the access on the side of the property and on the side of the porch. I want to show you the brick and the siding materials, windows, and trims for this that we propose for this house. The siding. We have most of the materials here, and I will show some of them, but any specific material that you want to see, we have basically most of them here. Yes, we'll put it here.
It's a little bit hard to see.
I think that we can put it there, yes? Yes? Okay. Zoom out. The trim, ventanas, trim, y el brick. The windows that we will use will be Jelwin windows. This is the trim that we're gonna use for the house. And I have the brick also. That we're gonna use for the columns. I have also samples of the PT if you want to see it, but any additional material that you really want to see. And I think that this concludes my presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines. Under conditions, staff's conditions on page 3 of your staff report through the presentation, many of the items were addressed. Some that require additional discussion is the pavers for the parking material. I don't believe I saw that, but I might have missed it. On the renderings, or excuse me, on the drawings, there was a door that was shown that was a period appropriate door, and then he had a material palette that showed a door that had some different articulation on the half light that was there. The one on the drawings is more suitable and period appropriate. We did want the overhangs to reach out to 18 inches that were reflected on his drawings. We wanted the fascia board removed, which it is removed for today's presentation. A couple of additional items is the hardy that was presented. The staff suggests that the hardy be smooth, and that's something that the board has approved in the past. That to revisit the skirt and the banding He had said that they're 6 inches in profile to the weather. That is the same dimension as the siding. Usually the skirting that is interwoven into the piers as it approaches the piers, the siding as it approaches the piers is a larger dimension as the belt course. So 12 inches would be period appropriate. And then the reveal of the windows, it's CMU over frame, just to make sure that the reveal on the first floor and the second floor are identical. That concludes staff's portion, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Anyone here from the public wishing to comment on the case, please identify yourself. Seeing none, we're gonna go start with some questions of the applicant. Mr. Perez.
That was a good and complete presentation. Good job. The staggered edge siding, is that on the gable ends?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Hi, Roberto. How much are you losing in the back to accommodate the parking for the cars?
The setback on the back for standard is, I think that is 20 feet. We have to put 32 feet. We have to push the house back in order to have the 10 feet of the alley plus the 32 feet of the driveway to have the 42 feet to have the 24 of the backup and the 18 inches of the 18 feet of the car.
Okay. I mean, a lot of the things that we do here is probably subjective or within the guidelines. I think you lose valuable real estate to accommodate for a bigger unit with the cars, and people nowadays they don't want to drive or whatever. My personal idea is that, you don't probably need it, and it's kind of tight already. But again, that's just my personal opinion. My comment was going to be on the hardy board that, you needed to be smooth instead of stacked or whatever, but that was it, yeah.
That for the cars was a request for transportation.
Got it, okay.
They request that with exactly that numbers.
Was it for one or two?
For two.
For two, got it, thank you.
I had a couple comments. One is on your railings, building it out of wood. Going to be maintenance problems for the owners. No problem with that, but it's going to deteriorate. And I know I live with it at my house, and so figure 5 years they're going to be replacing railings. The people who live there probably appreciate a metal one that could be done in white, but look very much the same way. The other comment is I don't agree with staff's recommendation on increasing the size of that trim board. I think the way that you've integrated it with the edge of the second floor banding, it goes all the way around and wraps around, and I think the 6-inch that you've got works fine. Overall, I like the project. I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Could you go over the paving material for the driveway that was mentioned?
This will be the papers that we're gonna use.
And what kind of pattern would they be laid in on the driveway?
What part are we gonna use? Just standard.
Staggered, okay. And then for the question on the doors as well, was the door on the drawings or this rendering? Which door would be used?
This is the door.
You just need to switch over to the overhead.
Yeah, you can't see that. There you go.
Okay, right there.
This one.
Corner. And then for the inset for the windows, from the first floor on the CMU and then the second floor that's framed, that will be consistent in the wall section. We kind of zoomed in, so I couldn't keep up
Yeah,
with,
that will be consistent. The idea is that the recess of that we have for the window and the concrete will be exactly the same on the second floor. And usually we do this with a second 2x4 on the frame of the 2x6. We just reduce another 2x4 on the back, and the window will be recessed. It will be basically the same that we have on the concrete block wall. When you add the 1x4 on the side, will be exactly the same on the second floor.
Okay, great, thank you. No further questions?
Can you go back to the previous picture? I have a question about the side door. You have a door on the side coming in from the garage, or from the driveways. Does that door access only the first floor unit?
Yes.
So the second floor unit has to walk all the way around to the front porch
Yes.
to get in? Okay. And in that side door, have you considered doing any type of awning over the side door? And I only say that because if I'm standing there carrying groceries in, carrying stuff in, I'm gonna have to stand there in the rain and find my keys and open the door. Just a thought to put a cover.
The big issue that I have is that the overhang cannot go less than 2 feet from the property line, and the lot is only 3 feet 7 inches. Maybe I can put something, but it will be only 1 foot 4 inches. Will be something minor. I cannot extend because the property is too narrow. It's only
Right.
20
It wouldn't be able to extend the length of the porch, of the step area that you have there? Wouldn't go further than the railing on the step? Just a thought. I'm looking at it going, okay, I understand the door. The overhang's there, but will that? Okay. Okay, I did not realize that. Okay, and then the other, somebody already talked railings. Okay, that's all I got.
Kind of follow up with Ms. Welch's comment about that side door. It's unfortunate to live on the second floor because how are they gonna get there, right? So they're gonna have to traipse through the mud or whatever, there's no direct route. They're either gonna have to go back out through the alley or kind of cut in between the houses. My thought is, why do you even need that second door there? Wouldn't it be better to provide both residents access from the front porch to the parking, get rid of that side stoop and have a continuous sidewalk so that they're both using that same sidewalk to get to the front porch, and from the front porch they can either go up or go into the house? It seems like it's blocking your access there to allow the first floor resident extra access and no access for the second floor. And then waterproofing issues, I think what Ms. Welch was talking about is providing a canopy or an overhang over that door to protect against water intrusion. That door seems like it's a little forced. It's close to that second set of double windows. You have enough in there to get your trim in there, but I'd almost suggest getting rid of it altogether and having both parties use the front porch for their access. You already have side access, extend that sidewalk up there, and then they both can go in the front. And it creates more issues than it's worth, but I understand what you're doing. So
I agree.
okay.
Originally, the first set that we submitted was without that door, but that was one of the suggestions that I received on the pre-submittal meeting that I received with the staff, and I just tried to. But if you allow that I remove that door, I prefer to remove that door and keep access for both units on the front.
I think it'd be up to your client, the owner, what they would prefer. I think the door is okay there, but I think it offers you more flexibility and less hassle for water intrusion and access for both units not to have it. I don't think staff would disagree with getting rid of a door that only serves one. I'd send them both up to the front. So I think that's something that can be worked out and removed. I think it's detailed the same way. I like the windows. I think they're well detailed on the window elevation sheet. One on your blow-up sheet number 18 there, you kind of showed a dashed hidden line, making it look like a casement. I don't think it's not a casement window.
No, it's not.
I think that was more of like an egress, showing that they're getting out of a bedroom.
Yeah, but it's
kind of
no
window.
casement.
But they're single hung or double hung.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's no gutters on this or exposed rafter tails?
Yes, sir.
So everything's a drip edge. What's your front setback? Your adjacent house with the porch looks like it's right up on the sidewalk, which would give you 0. On your site plan, it looked like it was set back a little bit, and I think there's precedent on your block for different setbacks in there. Do you know what your actual setback is
My setback from the property line will be 3 feet 7 inches.
on the front? And the sidewalk goes pretty much right up there. You have like another foot.
Yes, the sidewalk is just in the property line. We will have on the front will be 1 foot, 1 foot 1 inch, and the sidewalk, the piece that I will have for grass will be only 1 foot 1 inch. The house will be 1 foot 1
Yeah,
inch
'cause
from
your
the.
adjacent neighbor looks like they're right up on the sidewalk. And
Yes, it is.
But I think there's other.
The other one is 2 feet 2 inches.
Okay, so I think that's appropriate. Yeah, that's all I have for questions right now. Any other questions? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and, actually, you have a few minutes if you wanna summarize your comments or, comment on anything that we commented on.
No, I don't have any additional comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. We can have discussion on the case amongst ourselves. Ms. Welch?
I like it. I think it's good, other than the few things that we brought up. I like the removal of the door. So, that's all.
That's it. I agree with the removal of the doors, more equitable, put a sidewalk there, just so that everyone from the back, has a straight shot up to the front and don't have to walk in the side or anything else.
Yeah, one other thing that I forgot to mention, the front window is offset, it's closer to the door, that kind of bothered me a little bit. I know why they did that, they put that there to be over the kitchen sink. I'd almost see if we can move that more to it's centered within that bay. And I don't know if that's possible or not, but but other than that, I think the project's really nice. The presentation is very thorough with materials and it's a nice design on a very tight site. I think I'd commend the applicant on not trying to overbuild the site, instead of trying to get 40 units on there or something like that. I mean, it's nice, parking in the rear with 2 cars, that's a requirement of the zoning. So he has to get 2 cars for that particular zoning, he can get them on site. It takes up a lot of room, but, it's interesting, they don't have to improve the alley with 2 cars either, so it works.
Like I said before, I like the project, I think it looks good.
Yeah, I totally forgot. I thought he was getting an exemption because it was narrow size lot, but that's not, it depends, yeah. And my other comment was, why not make the unit on the top bigger, but then you're gonna have like one bigger unit and one smaller unit, which is not appealing. So yeah, I totally like the project. I mean, it's a classic. I mean, you couldn't nail it any better with the design. I really liked it.
Can you pull up the site plan?
We're in discussion right now. but
All
you
right,
can-
don't worry. Does the path I think the path on the left side of the house leads to the parking,
On the other side of that?
right? So I like the door on the side because it gives me right access. I mean, that unit could be more expensive or whatever. The only thing that I would do to that door is maybe put a small overhang just to protect the door. It doesn't need to be all the way so that I can cover under the rain, but just to protect the door.
Come on.
Yeah, it might be helpful for the applicant to put the site plan back up. I thought that strip of pavement was kind of like angled. I thought that was the adjacent
Could
parcel.
be, that's why I wanted to see it again, but if it goes all the way to the back to the parking, then I'm okay with keeping the door. I mean, that person's gonna have access, just gonna have to walk longer.
We need to flip the staircase on the porch too, though, 'cause the staircase is on the side of the door. So you have to walk all the way around.
He goes up.
You go all the way
in front
around.
of the house,
Yeah,
yeah.
you just kinda, you go all the way around, right?
I think he only has 3 foot 7 inches on
On the other side.
Yeah.
So you just have to walk in the front side of it.
Yeah.
What if the person next door builds all the way to the property line?
Right,
Yeah.
right. You wanna
You
take care of that on your own property. You
Yeah,
can't control that.
because then, if you have like 2 bags of groceries, you're not gonna fit.
Yeah.
That's right.
Saturdays.
That's right.
We've all done it.
The other comment I had was the stagger edge, siding on the gable. I don't think you need it. You can keep the same siding that you have. I think we've looked at that before.
Yeah.
Just keep the same siding throughout. It's so small, it's just gonna be a waste, I think.
Was there a discussion about the lighting in the back that I missed? I got the lighting in the front.
I don't think there
I
is
don't,
any.
was there any discussion about what lighting would be in the back? Because I know he wanted to do carriage lights in the front on the porch,
Side door.
Inside door.
and
Yep.
the, yeah, but I don't remember anything on the back. I don't have any notes about that. Okay.
Entertain a motion, if everyone's ready.
Yeah, yeah, so let's see. Get the right one. 1914, yep. So, move to grant a certificate of appropriateness, final approval conditions. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at the public hearing in BLC 22-153 for the property located at 1914 East Fifth Avenue, with the following conditions: that the applicant will work with staff to remove the side door, and that the applicant work with staff to finalize the lighting both at the front porch and at the back of the house. Is there anything else that we needed to kind of put in there?
I'd like to have that front window centered.
And then the applicant work with staff to potentially shift that front window if possible with the, at the front facade.
And didn't we make a comment about the railing not being wood? Does that,
Just they have to live with
it's
it.
their choice?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Just personal experience.
Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons. It meets the design criteria for new construction additions in height and width, setback, spacing, alignment, similarity, details and forms, and building materials within its existing context.
Second,
There's been a number of conditions placed on this application. I'd like to put those forth to the applicant to confirm that those are acceptable to you, and we can move forward. Okay, so they acknowledge yes. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. The last case that we're going to review is BLC 23-38. This is for the primary address of 1502 Nucio Parkway. It is a vacant parcel. There was a rezoning attached to this. In 2021, on October 2021, this board reviewed a recommendation to rezone it. They forward a favorable recommendation to City Council, which City Council approved it. So with that rezoning, if you look on page 3 of your staff report, some of the items have already been discussed, which are the height and the width, the facade width, the setbacks, the spacing, and the alignment of the structures have already been discussed and approved. So the remaining items, you're looking for a similarity of detail and forms and building materials and penetrations into the building. The certificate of appropriateness in front of you this morning is for new construction for a mixed use, which is commercial, with site improvements. The staff report is there on page 3. As they go through their presentation, you should follow it. It's a little different animal than we're used to seeing. And I'd like to go through the brief photo essay at this time. Do you have the Sanborn map on yours? There you go. Okay. So it's in this lower quadrant here. There was a request that came forward and that's already approved in a permitting, which is called W1, which is a portion to the north of the subject site. As part of the subject site, which is highlighted in the green, there was a larger footprint that accompanied that. But the only review powers that you have this morning is a small area right here from 4th Avenue to the southern line within the historic district. So I tried to kind of concentrate on that area. You see the density of what was there in 1929. This here is our vicinity map. As I stated, W1 was already approved and in permitting. W2 starts at 4th Avenue. They've recreated 4th Avenue as it comes across the project. And to the south of 4th Avenue is W2, but only this small portion is within your reviewing powers. So you have to focus between Scott and Nucio right in here. This is another illustration to provide some guidance for you. This here is our southern boundary. This was a prior project, and this is attached to a larger project, but only this portion. This was the housing that was there, that portions of it had been removed, but just so everybody could get a level of, or a sense of place. You see the vertical massing that was there that is no longer there, but I wanted to incorporate this into the photo presentation so everybody could kind of reflect on the area in question. That concludes the photo presentation, and I believe the agent will address the board at this time.
Good morning. My name is John Cleary. I am with Kettler. We are the developer of this proposed community. I am joined today by a few folks from our design team, John Fisher and George Lamb from Tortigalis Partners, and Jamie Beatty from Booth Design. George and John are from our building architects, and Jamie's with our landscape architect. They're going to lead the majority of this presentation. I just want to take a few moments to orient you with W2 within the context of the Gasworks neighborhood, as well as the historic district. Ron did a good job of orienting you. I'm just going to provide a few more details. Can you all see the screen? So I'm sure you're all familiar with this base map. What you can see here, the red line outlines the Ybor Historic District. The yellow highlighted portion with the black outline is the Gasworks neighborhood. W1 and W2 are called out in the northwest corner. Again, W1 and W2 are between Scott Drive and Nuccio Parkway. We were in here a year ago for W1 for our certificate of appropriateness. We are under construction now on W1, and W2 is just south of that across newly created 4th Street. One thing I will note, W1 was wholly within the historic district. W2, only the top portion is within the historic district. This provides a little more detail on that breakdown. So the W1 and W2 were rezoned separately from the remainder of the Gasworks neighborhood through a PD rezoning process last year. The blue line outlines the two portions of the site plan that were within that rezoning. The red line outlines the portions of the buildings that are within the historic district. W1 in the blue, which again we were in here for last year, wholly within the historic district. W2, which is in the green, that is the portion of W2 that is within the historic district and what we'll be presenting today. And just one last note, we are going through a substantial change determination with the City of Tampa, making a number of small adjustments to the building design based on feedback that we've received and things that we think are all in a positive direction. Those include reducing setbacks, consolidating curb cuts. So we'll talk a little more in detail about that. Just wanted to highlight that here and just note that everything that we are in discussion with the city about, you are seeing today. So there's not going to be further changes beyond that. With that, I'd like to invite John Fisher up to walk through some of these movements and then the rest of the presentation. And John, I believe you have to be sworn in.
At this point, everybody that wishes to testify that has not been sworn in, please stand up and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Fisher. You'll see on this plan that there's, the red line is the previous presentation, and the black underneath is what we're currently discussing. And you'll see that the opening to the 4th Street that we're recreating, we're creating much more of a consistent 4th Street now and moved that opening in the building around to the Nuccio, and that also is the division between the historic and the new build construction, which is a little bit different. So there's a more clear boundary between the two, and you'll be able to have this building act as much more of a gateway. You'll also see on 1/4 that we have a couple more ins and outs and recesses of the building. And it's also stepping back a little bit further from the curb to give a little bit more sidewalk now. So it's a more consistent with a commercial environment, because there is going to be some commercial on this ground floor. In the massing of the building, we're taking the technique of, it's one large building, but we're going to break it down into 4 main identities of construction, where it gives this character that is consistent with the Ybor district, that it's smaller urban increments. There's more than one thing that happens down most blocks, especially in the more historic areas. And that's also true of some other areas of Tampa. And this is a point in the Tampa map where you're transitioning from places that are much more urban and mercantile into the Ybor district, which was a little bit more lower scale in the history. It is we're breaking the building down. It's more typically a 6-story building. And in this area, we are breaking it down to a 5-story expression, where there's only 4 levels of retail over top of 1 level of commercial and grade. And as it gets to Nuccio, it steps down again, and you have a 3-story residential building over top of 1 level of the commercial. You can see in some of the photos here, we're trying to highlight the elements that we're trying to celebrate of Ybor, that there is a little bit more idiosyncrasy of individual expressions, that while it's all a masonry facade, that each of them has a few different hues of details. That the main centerpiece would be inspired by some of the Crest department stores or the Five and Dime stores. It's got the mercantile character. You have a little bit more of a hotel character as you come to the far right of the elevation. And on the far left of the elevation, it's a little bit more like a different kind of mercantile, maybe much more like an office building that's been adaptive reuse. And getting some of these notes to happen in the building really celebrates what is intended with, we think, the historic character, and not to keep it all as one consistent expression across the facade as it was before in previous presentations. This key. You can see a little bit here how the ground floor breaks down. You have the commercial and commercial area that might be occupied by a little bit of residential activation, but it is all an area where the whole ground floor is built as a podium structure, so that there's flexibility to make changes and adjustments as the market changes or as retail needs to expand. And then the upper floors is all residential, and the yellow is the areas that are within the historic district, according to the line that we have on the plan. You can see how the bridge breaks down, and as you come to the top level of the building, it steps back again, and the blue is an outdoor terrace that is open to the residents to use. As you get to the elevations, and this is where we can see the color coming in, all of the reddish and pinkish are different colors of brick. It is a brick veneer facade with a few stucco elements, where the second from the left kind of expression is a stucco piece that might be like an urban infill or an adaptive reuse kind of construction. There's some areas where you might see that the windows don't completely line up. That's also to accentuate that this is a building that should look like it is built a little bit more over time, that when a window also is above another on the step back, because say the white over top of the building on the left, that does step back significantly from the other architecture that's around it, about 2 feet, 3 feet in some places. You get these deep residential terrace pockets where the balconies inset significantly to give really deep shadow lines, which, as you go back to some of the historical precedents, you can see how a really deep balcony creates a really deep shadow, and you get those changes of light and tone across the facade. And you want to keep that same character. It's all It's all brick veneer facade except for the white parts. The ground floor is masonry, except for where if you could see my cursor, where the ground level comes down with being a little bit of the infill commercial with the residential above. Again, the residential intentionally not quite lining up so that it feels a little different.
Could you enlarge it just a little bit? Could you expand it for us just a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. See if I can get one more click. All right, try to fill the screen. So Nuccio in this view, we're looking at the north elevation. Nuccio is on the left, and Scott Street is on the right. This is all a north facade, so it's going to be mostly in shadow from the sun. So it's a pretty even tone across most of this. On Nuccio, we're stepping back significantly. You'll see in a few more slides that we have a very large tree that we're trying to save, that there's an existing tree on site. So that gives it even more layers of texture up against the street. So the whole ground floor is meant to be open as like a storefront. On the far right side, this is also stepping back again to give a little bit of a porch space. It is protected from passersby by a fence on the lower level. So that's an interior space so that the interior spaces can get out there and use that space. See if I can figure out how to get to the next page. Page down. Yeah, I see. And you have the Scott Street elevation. The historic district actually kind of ends halfway through the architectural expression, but we want to continue that and finish that architectural expression and at the right kind of frontage. And then you can start to see how some of these details will continue through the building to get beyond. And the Nuccio elevation is shown a little bit skewed so that you can see how the facade expression on that street does continue back, and those historic elements will continue past where we're having a bridge moment. This is an outdoor bridge that connects the building in the historic district with the rest of the residential levels. And that is a 5-story building to the left, and you can see how it connects to the 4-story building on the right, and the floors kind of continue across. And it's meant to be kind of an industrial kind of a bridge, so celebrating the industrial history of the cigar businesses in the area that were buildings that might have needed to expand over time and connect each other on upper levels. And it's a steel structure built very similar to what is also already being built for W1, that there's some bridges that connect those buildings across the streets. Except this one is not crossing a street. This is a pedestrian passage underneath that connects in the ground plan, the courtyard of the residential out to Nuccio. And George, I think you were going to discuss some of how the building comes together in the sections.
Yeah. Hi, good morning. So just to give a little bit more in depth now, just going into some building sections, just giving you some variations of the heights.
Before you get too far along, could you identify yourself for the record?
I'm sorry. George Lamb.
Lamb?
Lamb.
Okay,
Thank
Lamb.
you. Yep. Again, sorry. So just going in and just giving you some heights of what the floor levels would look like, conditions. As you can see here. So we did a few building sections just to give you an understanding of what the scale and the heights are in relationship from the commercial to the residential. And we gave another section cut here, just giving you some different perspectives of the different variations of balconies that we have. So we have some that are extended over, giving kind of like that Ybor 7th Street kind of atmosphere. And then we have some more that are recessed in for more privacy for the residential. They're all residential up here, but just giving different types of context. Here, we just created some wall sections, and also gave you an idea of where these wall sections are. This is on the Nucio site, so just giving you a little bit more in depth of how we're creating these, the parapet conditions. You can see here how we're going to create some of these profiles as well. So as you notice, starting with the finish, so we have the brick veneer. We're going to be furring that out to give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more profile, so we could create those shadow lines with the windows or engage it with the door. We have the cornice, which will be a one-piece pre-finished foam that'll be attached. And we'll give it also the depth and the profiles to mimic that to a traditional aspects of a design. Gave you some details of the canopies, and we also started providing what the canopies depths are to stay within the historic guidelines. So you can see some of the projections as well. Just another cross-section and a few more details on the corbelling as well as the other aesthetic features. This is on the Nacional, what we call in the facade right now, the main facade of the building. So some of the projections as well. And also just to indicate here at the ground floor, just as my colleague had mentioned, that this will be more of a masonry approach of the design on the podium. And then as you go beyond the podium level, then we go into the veneer, and you can see how we would follow the same depth and the same lines as the projections below. So there's a continuity between the two, even though the above levels will be in wood construction, the lower levels will be in podium. Again, just another reference. This is at the depths of the internal porches. And then giving you a little bit more in depth of the details for the drawbridge, or for the pedestrian bridge. Just giving you some information here on the railings, as well as the foundations for the post. This is at the roof amenity for the residents, just giving a little bit of, this kind of context of the historic, but now bringing some of the new aspects of the design, but not trying to do too much and overpowering it. So I'll kind of show you a little bit more in depth on the renderings here. These are some of the other balconies, which will mimic very close to what will be designed on the W1. So there's a time relationship between the two buildings, and some of the decking as well. And these are just some of the railing options that were taken into consideration. And this is the facade, this is the rendering of what this would look like on Nucio. And again, just emphasis of the pedestrian bridge to the roof terrace, and then to the facade on Nucio. This is the historical, or the existing grand oak that's on the site currently, so we'll be preserving it. And this is just another view on Nucio. And this is the view on Scott. Now I'm gonna present Jamie, who's gonna be discussing the landscape.
Hi there, Jamie Beatty, Booth Design Group. We're the landscape architect for the project. So as previously approved with the W1, and for continuity between W1 and W2, we are, will be matching the landscape in between Fourth. We are currently showing the grouping of palm trees that were previously approved for the W1 and keeping with the live oaks down the block as well. So in between the two projects, they'll match each other. Same thing with the raised pedestrian walk going across, and then we'll have some nice landscaping going down the streetscape as well in between the connection points to the parallel parking that's being provided, and then we'll accent it as well. Same thing along Nuccio. We'll have some accent palm trees along Nuccio, and then the grand oak that we are preserving along Nuccio as well. And then some of the material along Nuccio and 4th Street, we'll have some nice precast steps to transition into the courtyard, and then the standard concrete to match the existing walkway that is in the Nuccio, which is technically a parkway. So we'll be repairing that and keeping that to matches and keeping with the guidelines that we have to. Same thing along 4th, again, to match the W1 side. We'll have a concrete walk as well. And then one of the items proposed is the elevated boardwalk or deck around the Grand Oak to service the commercial portion of the project. This will be raised and it would be built to preserve this tree. So it'd be elevated with a pier system that would keep it away from the critical root zone. And then we would keep very open railing along Nuccio that would allow you to see the building, as you can see in some of the examples we're showing. Some of the site furnishings, well, let me start off at the top. Since the grades out here are higher on 4th Street, the deck will be raised, so we'll do a decorative screening below there. So along Nuccio, you won't see under a deck system, we'll have it screened in. We'll do that with either a wood composite or metal screen. And then for the site furnishing around the site, we'll keep to some of the EBOR standards and the W1 portions that were approved with bike racks, bench seating, and the trash receptacles. Then as well, we'll have lighting out here. We're gonna uplight the preserved grand tree, and they'll all be mounted up in the tree to highlight that. And then we'll have some nice bollard lighting going down the walkway into the courtyard. That will be nice slow lighting. And then just some of the species, sable palms, Washingtonians in keeping with what you see in throughout Ybor, and then high-rise live oaks as well to provide shade along 4th Street. So, and that's it for my piece.
That concludes our presentation. We look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. The staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines. As I stated previously on the introduction, that this already received a PD approval through this board and city council. So the height and the width, the facade width, the spacing and the alignment are already cemented. With the one exception is the setback. The setback is currently, there's a minor adjustment to the footprint along the northern facade. That is going through a substantial change right now. If this is to move forward, that is a condition that should be placed upon the final approval. You saw a lot of details this morning to show the compatibility with the first phase W1 and how it expresses some of the historic vocabulary in the second phase that we're reviewing this morning. They referenced a lot of the period buildings. We had some concerns with the depth of the canopies, which were altered and reflected this morning, so they have the depths of the Ybor City vernacular, and the strengthening of the cornices as well that were illustrated this morning. There were some concerns prior to the presentation this morning about additional detail. Those are called out on page 3 of your staff report with the balconies, the metal railings, the bridge, the veneers. All of that information has been presented on their documents this morning. Some of the materials, the stucco patterns, have not been expressed, but they're there. If that's a discussion that you want to get into, the information, I believe, is all here. That concludes my portion, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vila. Anyone here from the public wishing to comment? Back row, anyone? No? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing, and we can have some discussion on this case in front of us, starting with Ms. Welch.
Did I miss the part where we talked about what the lighting, I know they talked about it from a landscape perspective, but I don't remember seeing anything on the building perspective. Are we talking quietly amongst ourselves?
No.
Who am I asking the question to?
I can answer that.
Okay.
we do
I don't
have-
remember, yeah, I don't remember that conversation.
Sure. We do show lighting around the perimeter on Fourth.
Right, I know the landscaper talked about it, but I
Yes.
didn't recall anything being spoken to on the building itself.
Sure. So I'll zoom in here. And we're probably in that process, just finalizing which exact light fixture, but we do have
Okay.
around each one of the
Okay.
storefronts, and as well as the main one here. And we'll have in the ceiling lights
Okay,
in there, but it does wrap around.
okay,
on all the
I missed
sides.
that part.
Sure.
And then the other thing that they've got noted on here is the hardware in regards to, and I don't know, what hardware are you going to be using on the building is the question. Have you come to that point yet?
I mean, we have discussed it, so we are in the process right now of working with the door hardware consultant that will have relationships of what, typically is done on Seventh.
Okay.
We'll try to keep some of that aspects to it.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the stuff that staff has identified that maybe you didn't talk about. And the other thing they have identified on here is signage and street furniture.
Yes.
Yeah.
They submitted a whole book of design standards for the whole.
And I have
So
that,
I think it would
kind of
follow
fall in that. I'm
I
with
think
you.
That would be kind of delegated back to staff to confirm that hardware and signage and lighting and everything
All
meets
that stuff meets that criteria. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. That's all I have then. Thank you.
Sure.
Could we talk about the, just that north setback again, just make sure, so it's set back further than it was originally approved for? My understanding?
Here, let me just show you on the. So I think even on the, well, I can go either here. But on this outline, I know it's a little bit exaggerated on here, but you could tell from the wrap around here, a lot of it was really impeding into that sidewalk. So we try to give it a little bit of a relief, kind of like how you typically see on Seventh, where you have a little bit of a sidewalk and you have a little bit of internal, so you can start separating yourself from the sidewalk into whatever kind of, condition you're going into, either into the amenity space or to the retail side. It just gives you a kind of separation between the two.
Right, so the red is the original footprint?
Yes.
And the black is the new, okay.
Yes.
So the red
Sorry.
just stands out
Yeah.
more, so I thought the red
Yeah,
was like what
sure.
the new footprint was, so, right,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Clarification. And, do you have, any sort of like section or elevation about, with the pedestrian bridge, just like calling out some more detailing about it or anything like that?
Yeah, I can go into it.
I know it might be pretty similar to what we may have saw from the previous project as well, right? Looks like it kind of echoes quite a bit of the,
Yeah,
the development.
we try to do some similarity, but not exact. We wanted to create our own kind of context and kind of flavor to the design. So, we have here more of a cross bracing kind of design element here, because the W1 only had a single level of, a little kind of roof or kind of awning. This is, couple different levels to that. So we had to think a little bit, not only the aesthetics, but also structurally. So we try to, and also look at the context. So for instance, one of the inspiration is the down in downtown, the drawbridge, which mimics that kind of character. And we're just trying to tie in that type of relationship to that as well. So, and over here, we give you a little bit more insight, you know, concrete over, you know, corrugated metal. We're doing this, like almost like an HSS tube steel, all welded to make the connections work for the drawbridge, or, sorry, I keep saying that, but for the pedestrian walkway. Yeah, it's just too much of the inspiration behind it. And then we just show very similar, the E-board kind of design of the you know, the lights. They're on 7th, but also celebrating some of the details from W1, which has a similar kind of base.
So for the, well, I'm not sure what levels they are, but for the first 2 levels of the drawbridge, you have can lights. Is there any sort of lighting that's gonna be on the top of the bridge? Or is it just like rail lighting or anything like that? 'Cause there's
Yeah,
railings
most
for
likely
pedestrian
we'll
cross.
definitely provide some type of rail lighting.
Yeah.
That's something we're working through with landscape.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I don't have any comments or questions.
Lily White right now is a court, so that's gonna go from end to end.
I'm sorry.
That street is called Lily White, right?
Well, that's the next street up. This is like Fourth, it's like a new Fourth Avenue that's being created between W1 and.
Got it. Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Can you go back to the site plan or the landscape site plan? Whichever's faster. That's good. That's all lateral parking there. Right? The parking along the.
Yeah, there's
road there, that's all lateral parking.
proposed parking along, similar to on the W1 side.
I'll just make a comment. I think I said this on the W1 review too, about slowing the cars down along that road. I think there's a speed bump on the crosswalk in the center.
Yes, right here, yes.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on the ends?
There's,
I don't believe there are raised pedestrian tables at the end of the roadway. I'm not sure you're allowed to put them that close to an intersection like that, but
Gotcha.
we could look into that.
It's fine. I mean, there's something there before they turn or whatever. I know it's something that we discussed last time, so. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Could you zoom out just a little bit on that? So the Paseo before was like a break in the building, right? And now you're just doing a continuous front elevation, street front elevation. The Paseo's moving to the side, right? And that's where you're putting a pedestrian bridge. Am I understanding that?
yeah, I believe on this side, we don't see that bridge connection from here, but that bridge is right along here.
Okay. How far is that pedestrian bridge set back from the corner of the building?
From the
Roughly.
corner, roughly. I know we have that 10-foot barrier, or at least 20 foot from there. So I want to say it's about 25, yeah.
Okay. So you're getting a little bit closer to that live oak now with the new building, but that kind of maintains that street edge a little bit, and I think you're raising that plinth, and so you have a little bit more protection there.
Yes.
Can you go back to the first floor plan that's color coded? Yeah. So what does the orange mean, and what does the gold?
Yeah, so like the salmon color, we have it designated as, you know, storefront.
Commercial. So that's amenity, residential amenities, could be a gym, clubhouse, whatever, it could be some retail, right? You could put retail or no retail there.
No, we're more driven to put the retail onto the right side over here in this
That's
orange.
cool, so storefront,
Yeah.
residential, commercial, okay. So you're labeling everything kind of residential, just because that's the primary occupancy of the building, and then you're kind of infilling that first floor. What's the structure of the building? Is that, I heard wood frame, I heard steel, I see some concrete details. Is it kind of a combination of,
Yeah, the first two levels is the podium, so the exterior envelope will be in metal or steel,
Okay.
you know, metal studs, sorry. And then the brick will be.
once you get up, then you're gonna go to stick?
Yes.
Okay, so you're kind of creating a two-floor plan and
Yes.
then stick above, okay.
Yes.
Okay. On some of the, I noticed from this plan is called ground level, then the next plan is 3 through 5. So is level 1 and 2, are they the same, different? Is it double height area, or are you gonna put any residential on level 2?
So, yeah, and that's what the building section was, to give some insight. So there's nothing programmed on that second floor. It's
So second
completely
floor
void.
elsewhere on that block is probably something else, but for this, it's just a double height.
Actually, anything along on this double height for the podium, there's no we're not proposing to putting any type of
Okay.
usable space there. Yeah.
Okay.
More like a plenum, you know.
Right. Okay, so, so we don't have that pass-through anymore, residential. Can you go to the front elevation? We'll cover a few things here.
Sure.
Thanks for clarifying the structure, I was just trying to
Yeah, absolutely.
understand the details. Okay, so right down there by your, I think that's a medical clinic, you have that set of double doors. That's kind of where the pass-through was before, but that's not there anymore. That's just probably a back-of-house type of function
Yeah.
or something right there,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, that door looks a little lonely there, so you might want to detail it a little bit to bring it into the rest of the building.
Yeah.
Right here, or next to note 5, you know, everything else is really detailed, but that's like a, you know, and I think you need to continue that element over. I know you're trying to break it up, and you have, I went back to the original presentation to see what changed on this, and this is much better, you know, for the iteration of, it's kind of coming together as, you know, breaking down the masses and different elements to make the block more consistent, so I really appreciate what you've done there. Yeah, it's just that one door kind of.
Yeah, we're proposing, you know, more like just to bring some of the Tampa kind of environment, so like a mural with the overhead, on an overhead door, kind of similar to what's on. No? Okay.
No. You're not gonna put an overhead door there.
Okay.
You know, you could, I mean, if you need to get in there, then but you're not, that nice facade, you're not gonna put an overhead door there.
Okay.
You know, you gotta have, if it's maintenance or something, there's other treatments like you have there, but it should be dressed up a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, and once you get up above, you're talking vinyl windows and fiberglass doors. Is that what you're doing on all the projects, once you get up to the residential? But
Yeah.
then on the ground floor level, you're staying with storefront and metal and
Yes.
more commercial? Okay.
Yes.
And I want to talk about your metal louvers, which is, I guess, in the lower left-hand corner above the storefront. There was a staff comment too. Do you want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, so we provided, because again, this is still almost like in a shell of what type of program might be in there. So if there is a restaurant or a small little cafe or something like that, at least those louvers will be operable for that use. If not, it'll be blacked out. The louver will stay in the same language, so it just keeps that kind of similar language throughout the facade.
So it'd be for exhaust air or intake or something?
Yes.
Would they wouldn't be able to use it for like a grease trap or anything like that, like like a hood exhaust or anything?
No, we're not planning to put it in there. We're planning to put a vertical shaft and go to the roof. Yeah.
Perfect. So, yeah, I get concerned with, you know, grease spilling
Yeah.
out the canopy and
Yeah.
dropping on people below.
Especially
so,
because the residents are there, so
Yeah.
we would try to avoid that.
Yeah. Hey, it's fish night. Okay. Okay, that addresses all my thing. I like the project. I think this has a nice nice feel for it, nice rhythm. I think it's well detailed. So, yeah. Any other questions?
The door in question, I can appreciate the overhang if it's like a service access or whatever. So what would be your recommendation to do that? Because typically along 7th, there's not delivery intended, access through the main, and then we will consider this a main for all intents and purposes. So you either take it out and then try to figure out like a different access for back of the house stuff, or
Yeah, go off the sides or something, or,
right.
yeah, just can't be on the main.
It can be on the main, yeah.
You don't see that on 7th or the main. You see it in some locations, but setback or it's corner, put an inside corner, you can recess it and have a door to get into it. Okay. So you have a few minutes if you guys want to summarize any comments of our discussion, if you want. Okay. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We can have some discussion on the case in front of us amongst ourselves. No questions for the applicant.
No comments.
No comment.
I don't have anything other than what we've been talking about, so.
Yeah, I think though I like the project. I think it's really evolved quite a bit. It's much better than what it was before, which we kind of expected from the PD of what we saw. That was just kind of a placeholder. But I think it speaks the language. There's a nice variation, a nice rhythm to everything. Good use of materials, and I'm fine with that. I think this looks really good. I think there'll probably be a few little conditions that we need to put on there, including the substantial change to document that to being approved with that setback, 2301.
Right?
In agreement.
And I think another one of the conditions needs to be the door, because Roberta, you're right, we don't deliver off the main street, and I didn't even think about that, but that's a valid point.
Especially with everything that's happening to get trucks off of 7th.
Exactly, yeah, we don't wanna, yeah, yep.
Okay. You guys, your day.
All right, let's do it. So final approval with conditions for certificate of appropriateness. So move to grant certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in BLC 23-38 for the property located at 1502 Nuccio Parkway with the following conditions. That this approval is conditioned on substantial change sub 23-01 to be approved. And that the applicant work with staff to address the service door that's located on the East 4th Avenue elevation, to dress it up to kind of match its context and surroundings with the rest of the storefront treatment that we find on this elevation. Was there anything else that we wanted to add? Okay, and then because based on the finding of the fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City design guidelines of the City of Tampa based on the following reasons. It has a similarity in detail of forms and building materials of its surrounding context.
Second.
There's a couple conditions placed on this application. I'd like to make sure that the applicant is okay with those conditions. Yes, the applicant acknowledges yes. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. And seeing no more business in front of us, we are adjourned today. Thank you.